Hello everyone, today I am going to be giving you my August wrap up. Sorry if I sound a bit rubbish today, I'm full of cold, not too well, but I need to film this video, so here it is. Now the first half of the month I was really slow at reading, and I think that was literally just because of the book I was reading. It took me ages to get through, but I did eventually do it and I'm so happy I did. And that book was A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J Maas. I have finally read this book. Thank God, it's only taken me like over a year to get it done, but I read it and I'm happy I did. If you somehow don't know, this book is the second book in the Court of Thorns and Roses series, and I really liked Court of Thorns and Roses. I reread it last month, as I read it last year as well, or 2 years ago or something, but I reread it last month anyway, and then I have gone on to this book and I did really enjoy it, but probably not as much as the first book. If you don't know what this series is about, it's about Feyre, who is a huntress, and she ends up hunting down a wolf in the woods, and she does not realise that this wolf is from the Feylands. So she ends up costing herself her freedom basically, and ends up having to go live at the Feylands with all of them instead of living with her family back at home. This is a really action-packed book, I'll give you that. It is constantly just crazy. But I did find it quite difficult to get through. I mean, it is quite a big book anyway, so naturally it's going to take me longer to read, but just the content of it was so overwhelming at times. And because of this, I did have to keep looking at summaries online as well, every now and again, just to make sure I was following it properly, because I kept feeling like I was getting lost and I just needed to clarify what was going on. This did then slow my reading down, unfortunately, so it took me so long to get through this book. And also there was so many more characters to learn about in this as well, and I was like, oh my god, who is who? Getting so lost, but I did enjoy reading about quite a lot of the characters, especially Feyre and Rhysand again. I love these two characters. I think they're such strong characters, and Rhysand is probably my favourite character in the whole series, but no surprise there, he seems to be everyone's favourite character. I just feel like they're really strong characters and they have a lot of depth to them, so they're quite interesting to read about. And I feel like I got attached to them so much more in this book, and I was already attached to them in the previous book, but I feel like I really got attached to them in this one. I thought the descriptive writing again was really good. I could picture all of the locations and things, so that was really helpful when it came to understanding the story, because sometimes, like I said, I was getting a bit lost, but the descriptive writing did help a little bit with that. Sarah J Maas does seem to be quite good at descriptive writing now. I don't know whether everybody agrees with that, but I really think that. I would recommend this if you like high fantasy series, however I don't think it's suitable for younger readers, and I'm pretty sure everyone would agree with that who's read it. So if you're a younger reader, probably don't read this series just yet and wait a little bit. But yeah, definitely recommend if you like high fantasy. It just hindered my enjoyment a little bit that I was getting lost quite a bit. That just sort of didn't quite work for me because I like to be able to just fly through a story, and I couldn't really do that with this one. So I rated this 3 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was A Series of Unfortunate Events, The Wide Window, which is the third book in the series, and this is by Lemony Snicket. The first book is about the borderlet orphans that unfortunately have lost their parents in a house fire, and because of this they have to go live with their Count Olaf, who is horrible to them, and all he cares about is the fortune. All he wants is their money. He doesn't care about looking after them, and so they end up having to do loads of chores, and they're just thrown into their room, and they share this room, and it's not even got a bed. They're just sort of thrown on the floor. It is just awful how he treats those children. Now in this one, they aren't living with Count Olaf. I'm not going to obviously spoil it too much. They're not living with Count Olaf, but they're living with their Aunt Josephine, and Aunt Josephine is terrified of everything. Literally everything. So that proves to be a bit of a problem with the children. I just love reading about the borderlet orphans. I just find them such good characters, and they're so sweet and so supportive of each other, and I don't know, they have this sort of team about them, and I think it really became apparent in this book actually as well that they realised that they were such a team and they can't really live without each other, which I find really cute. In the film of this, as this is the final book that the film's based on, in the film I really actually quite liked Aunt Josephine. I thought she was really funny, and it does help that she's played by Meryl Streep, who is one of my favourite actresses, so naturally I'm gonna like her. But I think in the book I didn't really like her as much. I just found her really repetitive and really annoying, and she did get on my nerves quite a bit. Now if you don't know, Count Olaf is an actor, well, actor I suppose you could say, and he enjoys dressing up in obviously different characters and things. So he disguises himself as these different characters to try and get to the children. And in this book he disguises himself as Captain Sham. So they end up meeting Captain Sham in the town anyway. The Baudelaires know straight away who he is, they're not stupid. But Aunt Josephine doesn't understand and thinks it's Captain Sham and not Count Olaf. I really liked Captain Sham's disguise. I thought he was hilarious. He was really quirky, really funny, really witty. He was just a unique disguise, and I think Count Olaf in general is quite a unique character. So yeah, really enjoyed reading about Captain Sham, even though he is a horrible character. And I think I probably liked him just as much as the previous disguise in the second book, which was Stefano. I really liked Stefano as well, so it was quite nice to get that sort of mix of different characters from the same character. And they're still just as stupid as each other and they're really funny to read about. I will say the writing style does get quite repetitive, especially in this book with obviously Aunt Josephine being quite a repetitive person. But it didn't really hinder my enjoyment to the story. I still really liked it, and I definitely still love Lemony Snicket's writing. It's just, I think because of Aunt Josephine being so repetitive, it did feel like the writing style was quite repetitive in this one. However, this is one of my favourite childhood series, so it's not going to ever be out of my heart. It is one of the ones that will stay in my heart forever. I love this series so much. And this book I gave 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Roald Dahl, and this, obviously if you don't know, I don't know how you'd not know, is about Charlie Bucket, who is very poor. He lives with his 2 parents and his 2 sets of grandparents, and they have nothing. They're very poor. They can barely afford to eat. But one day on the news they see that Willy Wonka the chocolatier is going to be hiding 5 golden tickets underneath the wrappers of 5 Wonka bars around the world. If you find one of these golden tickets, you get to have a tour around the factory for a day and also win a lifetime supply of chocolate. So naturally when this comes out in the news, everyone is going absolutely crazy buying so many Wonka bars, but unfortunately for Charlie, he can't afford them. And this obviously is really upsetting to him because he would like the opportunity to go into the chocolate factory and see how everything works. And obviously meet Willy Wonka himself as well. Now quite quickly, 4 golden tickets are found by 4 horrible spoilt children. And this makes the grandparents of Charlie really angry, and he's like, well, why can't Charlie win? Why can't Charlie win a golden ticket? But unfortunately for Charlie, he can only afford 1 chocolate bar a year, and that's on his birthday. But Charlie does find a little bit of money on the street, and he runs straight to the shop and buys a Wonka bar. And lucky for him, the golden ticket is in that Wonka bar he buys. So he gets to go to the chocolate factory and obviously meet these other families as well who aren't very nice, but he loves his time at the chocolate factory. It is such a cute story. I love this book so much. I have read this before, but I just love this book so much. The characters are hilarious. They've all got their own personalities, which makes it really good because you can really learn about them very quickly. It's such an imaginative story as well, and I think Roald Dahl is the perfect writer to write this story. Nobody could have told it better. Roald Dahl's imagination is incredible. It's just so good, I don't understand. And he is one of my favourite childhood authors, so naturally I'm going to favour his writing. And even though the other children are really horrible, really rotten, really spoiled, I love reading about those kids because they are so funny and so just interesting to read about, and you just think, how do you think it's okay to act like that? But it makes the story interesting, it makes the story funny. It was great to see that those children got what was coming to them at the end because they needed punished, and they really got punished, and it was really funny. I also love the illustrations that Quentin Blake does actually. I'll quickly just show you the end bit when they're all coming out of the chocolate factory. How scraggy they all look, and that's all the other 4 children. And yeah, his illustrations are great and they really help bring the story to life as well. Now Willy Wonka is one of my favourite characters to read about, like, ever. Probably alongside Count Olaf because they're just so unique. But Willy Wonka is so quirky and so silly and so crazy and so funny, and you just never know what he's thinking, and I think that makes it really engaging. The story just becomes this kind of magical world that you're taken into, and it's because of Willy Wonka I think that it feels that magical. I think this is perfect for children. This is one of the most perfect children's stories ever, but I also think that adults can revisit it as well, because if you want to revisit your childhood a little bit, read this book. It's perfect for that. You will still get a laugh out of it as an adult. And I give this 5 out of 5 stars. This is definitely one of my favourite Roald Dahl books. And the final book I read was also a Roald Dahl book, and that was Charlie and the Great Glass Elevator. I went straight onto this one because I thought, why not? After reading Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, might as well read this one. Now, I don't remember much from the first time round reading this book. However, revisiting it, things start to come back to me a little bit, but it was quite like reading it from the first time round. Now, I don't really want to say too much about what happens in this story, as it obviously is the second book, but I will just say the characters end up in space, it all goes a bit crazy, and the grandparents end up taking anti-aging pills, which just goes a bit disastrous. It's really, really funny, and again, I really enjoyed it, but probably not as much as Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And the reason for that is because I felt like this was 2 stories put into the same book. I didn't feel like it was one full story, because it sort of chopped quite quickly from one half of the book to the other half, and it didn't flow very well for me. So that was a little bit of a shock when I got to that point, and I was like, okay, it's just completely changed. What's going on? Although I did feel this way, I did like both sides of the story. They were both really funny and really enjoyable, and the characters once again were hilarious. But yeah, it was just that sort of flow into one of the other. For me, it was just very sort of, it's this story, and then it's the same story, but it's completely different, so we're going to chip to this bit. It was a little bit jumpy for me. Again, I loved Willy Wonka. Like I said just before, he is a hilarious character. He's very unique, he's very unusual, and that just makes the story a lot more engaging and a lot more magical. And I love Charlie because he's so sweet and he just wants what's best for everyone. He is such a lovely little boy and you just want to give him a hug. The grandparents are a lot more apparent in this story, and that made the enjoyment so much more for me because they are hysterical. I love the grandparents. I mean, I just think old people in general are funny, but when you're reading about these 4, I mean, they are just absolutely hilarious. Grandma Georgina is probably my favourite character in this book, actually. I love Grandma Georgina. Again, the writing style, like I said, with Charlie and Chocolate Factory, this one again, perfect for younger readers. But again, if you're an adult and you want to revisit your childhood a bit, definitely read this. It's really fun and you will get a laugh out of it. And I give this one 4 out of 5 stars. So that is it for my August wrap up. I hope you've enjoyed it. I ended up reading more than I thought, actually, because it took me a good half of the month to get through a quarter of Mist and Fury, so I didn't think I'd actually get that far, but I did. I am very happy with what I've read. I've still got a lot on my TBR to read, which I will be posting to you very, very soon, so look out for that. But that's it for today. If you've enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. All of my social media links are in the description below for you to go check out if you'd like to. And I will see you all in my next video very soon. Bye!